Next up, I would like to have the honor to introduce Representative John Delaney, who has been the Iowa State Representative for Maryland's 6th Congressional District since 2013, and is the first Democrat to announce candidacy for the President of the United States in the year 2020. He has co-founded 2 companies, and in 2004, he won the Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year Award. I am proud to present to you Representative John Delaney.
Thank you, Tim. And I'll start by saying I agree entirely with the 4 congressional candidates that just spoke. Retiring Steve King is a really good idea. My terrific, amazing colleague from Hawaii, who is also here with us today, I don't know if she's here yet, Tulsi Gabbard, I'm sure would agree with that. So this is a worthy cause, and I want to thank you for fighting for that. And I want to thank you for having me. I can't imagine a more beautiful place to have a Democratic event, right? Beautiful Democrats in this fabulous setting in front of kind of nature's bounty here. I mean, it doesn't get any better than this. But it's important that we gather, right? It's important that we gather because we're in a really tough spot right now as a country. And I don't mean across the long term. I think the long-term prospects for the United States of America, the hand we have relative to the hand that any other nation has, based on how the world is likely to unfold, it could not be better. But right now, we're in a really tough spot. And it's not just because of the person in the White House. It's deeper than that. He's a punctuation, in my opinion, of everything that's wrong with politics. Hyper-partisan politics is dividing our country, it's destroying communities, it's even dividing families. How many of you know families where people don't talk anymore because of what happened in the last election cycle, right? I mean, how did we let this happen to our country, to our blessed country? I mean, we all know we're supposed to put country ahead of party, but the fact that people don't even put family ahead of party, I mean, this is a tragedy. And maybe the biggest problem associated with what's happened is it's prevented us from doing anything. For decades, your federal government has largely failed to take advantage of the large-scale opportunities we have as a nation and overcome the very significant challenges we have. Right? And we all know that the cost of doing nothing is not nothing. And the American people today are paying a huge price because of government's failure, and generations to come will pay a bigger one. And why? Because we never spend any time talking about the things we agree on. And all of our time in politics is talking about the things we don't agree on. Right? And think about how that's hurt this country. For the last several decades, we've watched how our economy has been utterly transformed based on our decision to become part of a global economy. A decision that, by the way, was the right answer. How could we not become part of the global economy? But we watched as our citizens have been increasingly sorted out as winners and losers based on globalization, and we haven't done anything about it. We talk about it, we don't do anything about it. And it's going to happen again. If you go outside of politics and you talk to people in business or academia or in the nonprofit world, they're just obsessed with how technology and automation is changing everything. It's changing society, it's changing work, it's changing jobs, our demographics, our security threats, how we use our resources. And there's no discussion about this in Congress, and there's no effort to prepare our country for the future we know is coming. And really what's at stake is probably the thing that is the most bedrock kind of foundational value of the United States of America, which is the American dream. 60% of children in this country live in a county where there's no evidence of economic upward mobility. 60%. We're basically writing off 2/3 of our population because we can't agree on anything. And this is personal to me because probably like many of you, I've lived the American dream. I was born in a little town in North Jersey to a blue-collar family. My dad was a union electrician. Neither of my parents went to college. That's a good union person. But listen, life was good. He worked hard. He didn't work all the time, but when he worked, he got paid enough to support us. When he didn't work, he had health care. because that union provided him health care. When I went off to college at Columbia University, something that changed my life, his union paid for half of my tuition. But that was the social contract back then. You work hard, you play by the rules, and your kids have an opportunity to have a better life. I was an entrepreneur, right? I took my first company public on the New York Stock Exchange 11 years after graduating from college. I was the youngest CEO in the history of the New York Stock Exchange. And I remember going into that building in Lower Manhattan and looking over my shoulder across the Hudson River at Jersey City, New Jersey, where I'm from. And I remember I used to have to go to that union hall, the IBEW Local 164. And every year I would thank those electricians for that scholarship, but what I was really thanking them for was for them giving me an opportunity that none of them had. And they were so happy about it. I would look over and see Ellis Island, where one of my grandparents was detained because he was 10 years old and he came to this country with his brothers and sisters, but he only had one arm. And back then we didn't let people into the country who were disabled. And so he stayed there for a couple months and his family tried to get an appeal. And finally he had an appeal and he was in a big room with hundreds of people speaking dozens of languages. And the judge comes in. And as he's putting on his robe, my grandfather would say, he saw that he had one arm. And that's when he knew he'd be an American. But that was the way this country used to be. Right? The grandson of the one-armed immigrant who worked at a pencil factory and the son of a construction worker goes on to start two companies, take them public on the New York Stock Exchange, have the utter privilege of serving in the Congress of the United States, and now have the opportunity to run for president. But that's the way the country used to be, and we can get it back there. But you know what we have to do? We have to start coming together. We have to heal this country. We actually have to start working together for the common good. And this is an enormous opportunity for the Democratic Party. We have to be the party that wants to heal this country and bring us together. The American people are craving it, right? It is the values that will cut through more than any economic message, right? How we, the party that actually believes government can and should do transformative things to prepare our country and its people for the world and the future. How can we not be the party that wants to bring us together? Right? That is our issue. That will be the central question of the day that I believe the American people are going to ask in the next several years. Which, how do we move on? And if we do that, everything's available to us. If we do that, we can take a look at the 60% of the counties where there's no economic mobility. These kids are being written off. And we can get public and private capital flowing to these things because there's things we agree on. We agree we should be building infrastructure. We agree we should be spending $1 trillion on infrastructure. I've got a bipartisan bill with 40 Democrats and 40 Republicans that does that, fully paid for by fixing our international tax system. If that went for a vote in the Congress, it would pass, but we don't talk about those things. There are smart ways of getting private capital flowing into these places, right? There are things we can do. We can prepare our country for the future. We know we need a new social contract. The social contract that existed when I was a kid and when many of you were young, that allowed you to have the opportunities that you had, that's got to change, right? We know our educational system needs to change. The K-12 educational system, which was a remarkable innovation at the time, right? It came after the Industrial Revolution. That needs to be pre-K through community college or some certificate training, and it should be free. We shouldn't have health care. We shouldn't have health care linked to employment, because as long as we do that, it's bad for health care and it's bad for employment. We shouldn't have retirement linked to employment, because as long as we do these things, there are things, if you look at the future, it's obvious what we have to do. The country needs to become more entrepreneurial. We need more startups, and the American people need to be prepared for a world that's more dynamic, and they need to feel more secure in that world, because we haven't done that, which is why people are so scared right now. But none of this can happen unless we actually start bringing the country together, having a conversation about the things we agree on. It is the right answer for the country, and it also, in my judgment, happens to be the right political position for us as a party. And isn't it amazing when the right thing to do actually turns out to be really good politics? Look at Donald Trump. Donald Trump became the president of this country for two reasons. The first reason is Democrats didn't turn out. We all know that. I think we're going to fix that. The energy in this party, as evidenced by this room, is amazing, right? The resistance, the fights we're putting up, we're going to get Democrats to turn out. But he also won because a whole bunch of Democrats and a lot of independents voted for him. And the reason they voted for him, and this is even, I have a hard time saying this, because I've never met him, but he obviously is the most narcissistic person I've ever observed in my life. But he managed to convince the American people that he was going to fight for them. Right? So we're not going to beat him, or we're not going to beat Steve King, right? Or we're not going to beat any of these other folks that don't deserve to represent this country by just saying how bad they are. We're not going to win by saying how bad Trump is and how bad the Republican Party is. We're going to win by putting forth an exciting vision for the future that's optimistic and heals this great nation. And the way we do that, and the way we do that is by talking to people about what they care about, not necessarily what we as the elected officials care about. I mean, look, I love the Democratic Party to my core, but we are the party of 1,000 flowers blooming. We have a lot of issues we care about, and the reason I'm a Democrat is because I believe we're right on the overwhelming majority of them. But a lot of them don't win us elections. What wins elections is talking to people about what they care about. And at the end of the day, the American people care about their job, the dignity that comes from that work, and we shouldn't forget that, right? Their pay and the opportunities for their children. Every time we as a party are not talking about how we want to bring the country together, focus on the things we agree on, and get things done so that there's more jobs, better pay, and greater opportunity, is a missed opportunity for us as a party. And if we don't do that, if we don't start winning these elections, then everything is at risk. And most importantly, the American dream. So like stories in your families or stories that you have yourselves, stories like mine, right, where the son of the, as I said, the one-armed immigrant worked in a factory. I mean, the grandson and the son of an electrician could have these amazing opportunities. That's what this country is about. And with your efforts, not only to turn out, get people to vote, but also make sure this party, right, is the party that talks to people about what they care about. That's how we're going to win. So I just feel so grateful that you gave me this opportunity to come here with you today and share this beautiful evening with you amazing people and this great meal. And I know my amazing colleague, Tulsi Gabbard, who I see her smiling face back there. You're very lucky. I mean, Tulsi's truly, by any measure, one of the great leaders in the Democratic Party. So I know I express, Tulsi will say it in some ancient Hawaiian language, but we're blessed to be here. And so God bless you all and thank you for having us. Thank you.